Hi, this is soul jazz flutist Althea Rene from San Antonio, Texas, and you're listening to Jazz Moods with Roger Lee.
So, a very good evening and welcome along to Jazz Moods. Yes, it looks a bit different, it sounds a bit different due to the UK lockdown coronavirus. Jazz Moods is still on Wednesday night on the Voice Radio. You can always listen in, it's all the music is still there, and I'm not there, unfortunately. So, to try to make sure that we're still pleasing everybody in that, we've adapted with modern day technology and we're on Zoom. And tonight we are very, very proud and very pleased to welcome the wonderful Althea Rene. Hi there.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Massive round of applause from everybody. Talking all the way from San Antonio, Texas. Welcome along and welcome to Jazz Moods.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling really good these days because we made it. We're in 2021, and I'm just very hopeful for this year.
Oh, I think we all are. I mean, after last year, as I said, the UK is in total lockdown again now. So consequently, we're not allowed in the studio. So we're sitting there and we're having to adapt accordingly. So we'll talk about your career and we'll talk about how I've interviewed many, many jazz artists, and it's interesting how many have had to adapt. You know, they've had to cancel all their tours or their concerts, their festivals, and they're improvising. And I know you've got a great event coming up this Saturday night, which we will talk about
Okay.
as we go through. But first of all, I'm just going to say a quick hello to a few people that I know tune in. We've got the London Jazz Lounge. They always they tune in. We have the London Jazz Scene newsletter. Religiously, they always tune in. And of course, we've got Jazz Across the Pond with our wonderful friend, Mr. G, Kevin Goulsbury, who sends his love, by the way.
Oh, great,
I
great.
spoke to him about an hour ago and he was having a nice little walk around Richmond, Virginia, and there was about a foot of snow. So he was out there
I was
giving,
going to say that. Yes, let's go there. Yeah.
and of course, to the listeners of Jazz Moods. So very, very warm welcome along to now. So there we are. Rene, born Christmas Day 21 years ago.
Yeah. Thereabout.
Thereabout. Yeah, we'll go. Uh, Born in Detroit, Michigan, you began your musical career at the tender age of 4.
Yes,
Go on,
yes.
tell us more.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a musical family, and my dad was one of the original funk brothers with Motown,
Yeah.
and there was always music in the house. And on Saturday mornings, my dad would play albums, and we would just dance around the house. And there are always lots of instruments, and I have two brothers older, and we would just pick up different instruments. And but when I picked up the flute, my older sister played the flute, but she didn't like it that much. And I asked her if I could play it, and it was one of the few times she said, "Fine, I don't care."
Yeah.
And I picked up the flute, and that was it. It was just me and that flute. I have never put it down. That's the one thing that I have done my entire life. There's never been a time that I didn't play the flute. Like childhood friends, they're like, I can't believe you still playing the flute, you know?
I mean,
So,
it's coming from such a, I mean, yeah, I know you're a very famous father and that, and it's coming from such a great musical family. So it was always there. But I mean, am I right in saying, now hopefully the researchers have done it great, your first love, you fell into classical music?
oh yeah, because my mother loves classical music. And so when I would play and practice, I would practice while she would either be crocheting or sewing, and and she was really, really there, and she was the one that made sure I got lessons,
Mhm.
and that I continued. And so that was kind of I really went in deep on just classical music, and it was almost a fear because like my dad would take my brothers. He ran a jam session every Saturday for like I don't know 20 something years, and my brothers would go to the jam session. But for me, it was like it was safer, and it was what I knew. and I wanted to be a classical artist. So that went on until I won a classical scholarship to Howard University.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I studied there. And I don't know, it was somewhere probably in my second year that I started really wanting to experiment with different types of music. And really, I always had a love of jazz, but it was a fear of how do you know what to play? And even having a dad who played jazz, I don't think he really wanted me to play. So he didn't really encourage me to play jazz. He encouraged me to stay in classical.
Sure. But so the undertones of jazz were already there. And am I right in saying that you, whilst at the Howard University, you actually stumbled across a jazz band, and that's when you actually turned around and went, "I want to be with them. I want to work with them."
Yeah, it was. I actually, I went to a jam session, and I had a few friends that have gone on. Wallace Roney, he was probably a senior when I got there, but Wallace Roney went on to just be a phenomenal jazz, standard jazz bebop artist. And I met a lot of great people, and they encouraged me to, to play jazz. So I started going to jam sessions, and it was really rough in the beginning because I would ask, could I play? You go in and you sign your name on the, to sit in, and I only knew a couple songs, and, and they would just, it was just, they were really mean, man, in the beginning towards women. And I think that's when I first really realized that it was going to be a lot more difficult,
Yeah.
Being a woman, that I wasn't getting the encouragement. People were asking, can you play? Do you have your flute? Who goes to a jam session that doesn't have their instrument,
But
you know, go
for,
ahead.
so also, sorry to interrupt you, but also for a jazz band, predominantly the lead at the front would be a saxophone or a trumpet, because the sheer volume of the noise, and flute you wouldn't also associate. So am I right in saying it was about this sort of time you then encouraged and you actually invented your own style of flute talk to make the actual flute louder and more prominent in the front there?
Exactly. First of all, nobody wanted me to be in the band because they would say, well, do you play saxophone? And I would say no. And then they said, well, do you sing? They would really say, do you sing first? And they said, all you do is play the flute? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, we really want someone who sings too, or that plays saxophone and doubles. And a lot of times when I would play, the band would play really, really loud and I couldn't hear myself.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started to play in between the beats, just so I could hear myself. And that was the early development of my flute talk or percussive style of playing, so that I could hear myself. Because yeah.
Oh, that was now. I mean, we've done all the study about yourself, and I take my hat off to you because you were so determined, and you were like, no, I'm going to carry on pursue this one, and you had an amazing career with it, going through the whole thing. The multi-platinum and Grammy-nominated saxophonist Naji playfully refers to you as a mazo. A mazo, which is a Spanish word.
Maceo. Maceo, the sax player, yeah. Because he just comes in with the groove, a groove, and his style is like groove, soul. And that's kind of, that's where I am. I didn't learn traditional jazz. I wasn't able to be in the jazz band because, once again, they said I had to play saxophone and double on flute. I couldn't just play flute.
All right.
So that was something that they've since changed that. But for a long time, you couldn't be in a jazz band if you just played flute. You had to double. And so at one point, I was playing trumpet as a second instrument. But I always hated that it was ruining my armature to play the flute. When I would play the trumpet and then or any other reed instrument and then try to play the flute, my tone and your armature, your tone as a classical player, it's like a more pure sound.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that. So I didn't want to be in the jazz band. So I mainly learned a different type of jazz, like freestyle.
Yes.
So I don't play, my style is not made up of different molds and different jazz scales and things like that that make up a lot of the standard jazz music that you hear. Mine is just kind of freestyle. I'm kind of like a rapper with the flute.
And I must, I know you've had to adapt, as we've alluded to. You've had to adapt now because of COVID, and you've come up with some amazing YouTube covers. We do, and the most recent one I've seen of yours, and I'll try to tag it on when we post this one. But where
Okay.
the McFadden and Whitehead, ain't no stopping us
Oh,
now. I mean, that is just wonderful, and I mean, how appropriate that title at what the world's going through at the moment.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing with these, every week since March, I was doing a song a week. And it was mainly to lift spirits, including my own, and just to, so I didn't go too deep because it's not a recording. It's just like pick a song, and just kind of play it. And that's kind of the way I was approaching it. It's just a song offering. It's not going to be perfect. It's on a mic. It's a recording in the back. It's not this perfection that we've all become used to when we go to like a show or festival or that kind of thing. So, and I think it really has been popular. And for me, I've been able to cover some wonderful songs. I did This Masquerade and Valdez in the Country, and then I did some old school like soul. You Make Me Feel Brand New, and
Yeah. You did
and it
a
was just
Bill
kind of
Withers
fun.
cover last year as well. That was a fabulous cover.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
well, the thing is, I mean, your selection of CDs, and there are 8 that you've got out in it, and there's a great mixture of covers, which we're going
yes,
to play. We're going to play a couple, but also there's some wonderful. You write your own music as well, so you got your own original pieces as well there. So
yes, yes. I always write, co-write, and I mainly write the melodies. And I have some wonderful producers that I've worked with, and great arrangements, and it's just been a great journey being in this, because I'm not producing music to say, oh, I want it. I'm going to produce this because I want it to be on Billboard, or I'm doing this for radio, or when I'm doing music, I want to do music that when I perform live, because that's the type of player I am. I love playing live.
yeah,
And so I want to be able to play the music from my CDs live. I want them to have that sound. I've been recording where I take the whole band in the studio and we record in the studio live.
brilliant.
Yeah. And then I'll play with them, but then I'll go back and actually lay like all the harmony parts and things like that. But the core of the song that you're hearing, that's just a band, just one band.
Yeah. Hey,
Especially like live in Detroit and Flossom.
well, Live in
Yeah.
Detroit is an electrifying album of yours. It's just, you can see
Thank
how
you.
when you put it on, you close your eyes, you can virtually feel as if you're there in that concert with you, and
Yes.
you are coming alive. And it's so different from studio albums. Some artists can translate quite easily, other ones don't. You can say, and I take my hat off to you again for the second time tonight. I take the fact that you do the one take, because there's a lot of modern day artists and everything is multi-track and double track. And when you see them sing live, everyone's sitting there going, well, they don't sound like that on the album.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one take because I didn't have money to come back. We had to do it all. Then I knew that. So you just go in knowing, it was, I don't know, it was all adrenaline. It's just all adrenaline. And then I endorsed Altus Flutes, and that's a Japanese flute company. Wonderful flutes. I've been playing them most of my adult career.
Yeah.
But for that night, they allowed me to play on a rose gold flute for that night. And that was the first time, usually you have to break in an instrument.
Mhm.
But this was a rose gold, and it doesn't even have a price on it. You have to inquire, about the price. So it's $30,000 up,
That is your
and
prized possession.
well, no, that's not my flute. I played that flute for the Live in Detroit. They gave me that flute and allowed me to play it for
They
that
didn't let you
project.
keep it?
No, just for this show. Then I had to take it back.
Yeah. Where's Althea? Oh, she's going out the fire exit. We're just seeing it going down. Okay. You mentioned briefly the Billboard, the American Billboard, and in May 2013 you released your wonderful album Into the Flow, which is a
Yes, in the
album,
flow. Yes,
great
yes.
album,
Thank you.
and you co-wrote the title track that made history as the first flute featured single to be ranked at #1 on the Billboard in the smooth jazz
Yes,
chart, and it stayed there for, am I right in saying, 10 weeks?
yes, it did. Yes, yes. Yeah, like I'm good. I've had a lot of several of my cuts have gone to like #3, #2, #5, and it's always exciting. But I always think that you know if you've ranked and if you've done the best that you can do and you put it out there, to me, it's all good. I mean, it's all good. I can't be disappointed with anything that I've put out there. Because there are a lot of variables whether a song gets to #1 or not. But I'm really, really proud of the body of work that
Well,
I've
what we're
done.
going to what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick break now so the listeners can actually have a listen, and we're going to play. It was actually the first piece of music I heard of you, and the moment I heard it, I went, "Wow! I've got to start doing some more investigation of this guy." And this is
Okay.
the finally interview. It's wonderful. We're going to play "Sunday Cruise" from that album, which is a great track. So the listeners, stay with us. We'll be back continuing the interview and the conversation with the wonderful Althea. But here from the album Into the Flow, this is "Sunday Cruise."
All right.
So you've just been listening to the wonderful, wonderful Althea Rene and a track from Into the Flow and the wonderful Sunday Cruise. And Althea, I just love that track, and it features on my show frequently.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we've got to
Yeah.
say, we got hot news here that you're featuring on a track with Demetrius Noboris, Into the Light, which has been charting really, really well in the United States. Is that right?
Yes. It's Dimitri Neighbors.
Yeah.
And yes, and he also is the producer for um, Live in Detroit,
Yeah.
and half of the CD for In the Flow. He is my writing partner. So when he was doing his project, of course, he wanted, to feature me on one of his songs. But yeah, we're great friends, and I'm
Well,
really proud of the work that he. And I've heard a couple of other tracks from that upcoming CD that he has coming out, and it is wow. That's
you
all
should
I
look
can
out for
say.
that one then. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on that. Now,
Okay.
Ed, with you've got a passionate mission to mentor women in the entertainment industry, and you authorized an autobiography entitled "Becoming Chocolate Barbie," and it's a guide to a professional woman in the music business in June 2018. The book
Yes.
was written, Ed, in an interview format so that the readers could easily use it as a reference resource, and women who aspire for life in business can appreciate the insights that you share. Tell us more about this wonderful book.
Well, it really came out of a lot of my experiences in that I didn't have anyone to talk to. And I couldn't get advice. And I just kind of had to learn everything kind of on the fly. And I don't, if I can help it, don't want other young women or young men at this point, it can go both ways. But a lot of times when you're young and you're trying to make it, you want to break. And there are so many people in the industry that will tell you they can help you, or tell you that they have all these connections and what they can do for you, and they're just really slimy. That's the only way I can say it. And they have ulterior motives, and it's just not a good situation. And a lot of times you want to make it, but you're not comfortable with what the person wants from you. And so in the book, I give examples of different situations and how to get around it. Or sometimes, in some cases, you just have to say, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And that might be, you might be blowing an opportunity, but I think in the long run, how you feel about yourself is much more important than going along with someone because of what they want from you, and they're just taking advantage. So a lot of scenarios in the book. And then I also get into just mentoring in terms of the business, royalties, and how important writing is,
Yeah.
and publishing and things like that.
Well, we've all seen, without mentioning names, we've all seen what's happened in the last 2 years in the film industry and how
Yeah,
that all totally blown up. And so what you're doing is incredible. And so the woman is called Becoming Chocolate Barbie. Is it still available? Can people still
it
buy it?
is. Yeah, you can download it from my website. And yeah, it's, I've had a lot of people say that it's helped them. And so that makes me feel great. There's
Well,
going to be a volume 2 coming because of all of the corona and everything. I think, um, something needs to be said about the future of music and how we need to operate.
yeah. Well, I know you're an advocate of women's empowerment, and that is evidence with your 8th CD, Flawsome. Another great, great album. And now back to the flute, musical influences. Now, I know your musical influences, but to tell the listeners who your musical influences were.
Well, early on, it was Hubert Laws, Dave Valentine, um, Ian Anderson,
Mhm.
Yusuf Lateef. I started singing in the flute after hearing Ian Anderson play rock on a flute. I was blown away. I just couldn't believe what he was doing and how fluid and free. He was just so free with his style.
Yeah.
And I love that about him. And then Yusuf Lateef and the jazz, he was kind of expressing himself in avant-garde kind of way, and it really got me to thinking about as a young woman, how would it sound if I was singing in the flute, with having a high voice. It's not as high as it used to be, but um,
You're only
but yes,
21.
so I started, yeah, so I started experimenting with that, and I had a chance to go on one of the first reality shows, which was the Apollo, and and I was on the Apollo, and I was during the rehearsal, I was playing, and then Kiki Shepard, I was just scared. I was just right out of the gate, young, scared. She comes over and she says, "Girl, you gotta move. You stiff." And from that point, I started practicing in the mirror, dancing and playing. So
Yeah.
then I added that. So now I'm dancing, playing, singing, screaming.
And and for anybody going onto the YouTube, you'll see that, and that's paramount on that. Okay, so we mentioned about this Saturday, the 7th of February. You got a great event coming up. What is it all about? I know you were rehearsing last week for it.
Oh, actually, I did that. I just got back from that one. I have a really great event coming up in Detroit for Mother's Day. I'm going to be in LA with a young lady saxophonist, Jeanette Harris.
Oh,
And we started a group 2 years ago now called the Queens of Soul Jazz. And we toured and toured, and a lot of stuff got canceled because of COVID, but we're coming back, and we've got some shows. I'm going to be in Jamaica
wow.
coming up, and got some great events coming up.
Well, please
So
say hello to Jeanette. I have actually sent her a message with an invite to come and join me for an interview, and I know she's busy, so please say hi from myself.
I will. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so coronavirus, America is not in lockdown like the UK. You're obviously using your time very, very wisely to, either through YouTube or the different clips and that. And you sound like you got some great concerts coming up. But what dates are coming up? Is there any long-term dates, when you can get back on the road again?
Well, yeah, in May, I think that's when a lot of them have been pushed to. And in the meantime, I'm doing a couple of virtual things that I've been hired to do. So rather than participate in the conference, I'll actually be taping a virtual show um, and doing it that way. I've done about 3 or 4 of those. And I'm teaching a master class at a university here, UTSA, and so yeah, I mean, I've just been, and I'm working on my very first gospel single. So that's something that I'm really excited about. Just the good thing that's come out of the lockdown is that you really start to explore all these different avenues and opportunities that come up. And whereas before I was just touring all the time, so it was just I didn't really have time to think about anything else because every week, you know, I was unpacking one suitcase and packing another one. And so with the lockdown, it's I've been doing a lot more diverse type things.
Well, very similar. I mean, look what we're doing now. I've had to come out of the studio. So, but talking
Yeah.
about grabbing opportunities, of course, one of your big opportunities was the Dubai International Jazz Festival. And it was your first gig outside the United States. And that was a great story. I love this story.
Yeah. So my very first time, I think I got a call from um, Jeff Lunt, and asking me if I could was available to go over to Dubai, and of course, I was available. Yeah, and I get over there, and um, so I have the meeting and everything, and that's when they asked me if I was interested in signing with Trippin' and Rhythm. So I get a trip to Dubai, and then I get signed with a major record label, and it was just so exciting, just a whirlwind, and I just had such a great time, and actually had the opportunity to go back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, and
Now,
yeah, go
you've
ahead.
also You mentioned briefly, but you've appeared in Germany, you've done Spain, Portugal, South Africa. Have you ever appeared in the UK?
No, and oh, that is something I feel like it's just horrible. I need to perform over there.
Well, if
I need to
we can
perform.
open any doors for you, we'd love to.
Yes, yes. You know, I have some people that say, "Well, jazz is not that big," and I'm like, I don't buy that. I no,
Mm. It's
no, I don't buy that.
We've got Ronnie Scott's Vortex is still, and of course the Pizza Hut, is
Yeah,
still there. But I mean, like Ollie Silk, we spoke to a few weeks ago, all his gigs are being cancelled there and that. So it will rejuvenate. But there is a real passion for love in the UK, and we would love to see you in the UK performing.
yeah,
You'll soon know me because you'll recognise the shirt, and you'll go, "Oh, there's Roger."
yeah. I've got some Versace too. That's yeah. I love it. I love it. I like colorful stuff. So
Now, you
um,
mentioned about cruise, because you've done quite a few cruise ship jazz festivals. Now,
yeah.
I spent 5 years working on the ships. Uh,
Oh,
I would,
wonderful.
I did the radio show, I did the interviewing, but I was also entertainments manager. So if you'd appeared on the Q&A, you would have come across me, and I would have done the sound
Oh,
and the rest of it.
yeah, yeah. I've got a cruise coming up, the Capital Cruise, and but it was canceled, of course, last year, and so they rescheduled it for January 2022, which I think is really smart.
Yeah.
So, so I'll be cruising, and for me, I have no problem traveling anywhere. I absolutely love to travel. I love when I get there. I like to experience the food and the life, you know, style and everything of wherever I am. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, you're supposed to experience life.
Uh,
So you're not supposed to be afraid of it, you know.
well, I was very fortunate. I did 3 world cruises, and I met my wife while I was out there. So
Wow.
great. I met her in Miami, and she's from England, as people do. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Your wife is from Miami?
no, she's from England.
Oh, but you met her in Miami.
She was a dancer on the cruise ship. So it's a
Oh,
small world, as they say.
yeah, yeah. My mother is Bahamian, you know, from the Bahamas,
Yeah.
but she was brought up in Key West.
Oh, well, yeah, the most southern port of America.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
So now, I mean, because I'm consciously aware of time, but what advice would you give to a new jazz artist, up and coming now?
I would say to really figure out who you are. Try to figure out like how you want to represent yourself in terms of your music, and really that's just about your personality. So rather than trying to sound like someone or trying to say, well, I'm gonna put out music that I think this person would like, you know, find out like your personality and you know, and put that out there. Also, though, really, really do your research on the business because the playing is one part of it. You've got artists that are really don't play all that well, but they have their business together, and they may be more successful than a person who has spent their life you know, just practicing and practicing. And I know a lot of artists that will say, oh man, wait till you hear me now, because I've been practicing and most people don't really care. They don't know. They don't know what your best is. They just know, I like that song that you did, you know, or I like that sound, or I like your energy. So it's all these different things. And I just want to tell someone who's young, starting out to, you know, before you decide that you want to play, you should already know that you can play. You know what I'm saying? And so the rest of it is just having fun and figuring out who you are as an artist and how you want to represent yourself. So
Very
I
good.
think there are a lot of other things, but those are kind of the main things.
Well, I read an autobiography of the wonderful David Foster, the producer, and apparently in his early days, he took a piece of music to Quincy Jones and said to me, he said, listen, would you ever listen to this? But then apologized. He said, it's not exactly right now. And Quincy Jones said, well, don't let me play it. Come back when it's right. I don't want to hear it. I want it when it's correct. Come back to me. And I thought,
Right.
very true.
That's right. You know, you should be, when I put music out there, it's out there. It's gone. I'm not going to go back and nitpick, or even when I'm doing my little songs for the week, there'll be little glitches here and there, but it's all about the energy and the mindset. And I'm just trying to make people feel good for 3 minutes with my music,
Well,
my
it
energy.
certainly works. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute great pleasure to finally talk to you and to have this great chat to yourself. And this interview will be put out tomorrow. We'll edit it down, put it out tomorrow. We're going to finish the interview by playing the wonderful 1976 Denise Williams, your cover version of Free, which blows me away. It's a wonderful song. It is an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure, and we hope that one day you make it to the UK shores, and
Yeah.
that we would love to see you over here, performing over here. We know we would.
All
Uh,
right.
we're going to
Gotcha.
tag on some YouTube clips and some photographs of yourself and that, and also where people can obtain and buy your CDs and that.
Okay.
Please come back and talk to us again very, very soon. Tomorrow night, of course, Mr. G, Kevin Goolsby, is the smooth jazz train out of Richmond, Virginia, a great radio show. So make sure people tune into that one there. And I know he features you very frequently on the show.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
It's been an absolute delight. It's been a wonderful pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on Jazz Moods.
Thanks again. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And cheers. You look after yourself.
All right.